My sister brought home roadkill for dinner. 3 days later, our entire neighborhood started walking on all fours. My sister Zara has always been obsessed with saving money, but when she brought home a deer she found on the highway last week, I thought she'd finally lost her mind. She said it was fresh, barely hit, and that throwing it away would be wasteful. My parents were desperate to save on groceries, so they let her butcher it in our garage. The smell was terrible from the start, but Zara insisted it was normal for wild game. She made steaks for our family dinner and invited our neighbors over because there was so much meat. The Johnsons, the Garcias, and old Mrs. Patterson all came over for what Zara called our roadkill barbecue. Everyone laughed about eating roadkill, but the meat tasted amazing, rich and gamey in a way that made you want more. Zara was so proud of herself for providing such a feast, and our parents praised her for being resourceful. I ate 3 helpings because I couldn't stop myself. That night, I had the strangest dreams. I was running through the forest on 4 legs, feeling more free and powerful than I'd ever felt in my life. The ground felt perfect under my hands and feet, and I could smell things I'd never noticed before. When I woke up, my knees and palms were scraped up like I'd been crawling. The next day, Mrs. Patterson was walking her dog, but something looked wrong. She was moving stiffly, like her joints hurt, and she kept looking down at the ground instead of straight ahead. When I waved at her, she barely acknowledged me and just grunted in response. By the 3rd day, things got really weird. I was walking to school when I saw Mr. Johnson in his front yard, but he wasn't standing up. He was on his hands and knees, grazing on the grass like a cow. His wife was beside him doing the same thing, and their teenage daughter Maya was crouched nearby, sniffing at the soil. I called out to them, but they just looked at me with blank stares and went back to eating grass. Their movements were too fluid, too natural, like they'd been doing it their whole lives. At school, I couldn't concentrate because I kept thinking about how good the grass in our yard had looked that morning. By lunch, I found myself staring at the salad bar, imagining how fresh those leaves would taste if I could just get down and eat them properly. The thought scared me, so I skipped lunch and called my mom. Mom, something's wrong with the neighbors, I said. They're acting like animals. That's interesting, honey, she said, but her voice sounded distant. I've been having the strangest cravings today. Did you know our backyard clover smells absolutely delicious? When I got home, I found my parents in the garden, not working in it, but literally in it, on their hands and knees, pulling up vegetables with their teeth. Dirt covered their faces, and they looked up at me with eyes that seemed more animal than human. The potatoes are so sweet this way, my dad said, his mouth full of soil and roots. You should try it, honey. That's when I realized what was happening. The deer Zara had found wasn't roadkill. The wounds on its body weren't from being hit by a car. They were from something else entirely, something that had been feeding on it before it died. I ran to the garage where Zara had butchered the deer, and I found bones scattered across the floor. But they weren't normal deer bones. They were too long, too thick, and some of them looked almost human. In the corner, I found something that made my blood run cold. A collar with a name tag that read, Bella, if found, call 5550123. This wasn't a deer. It was someone's dog, but it had been transformed into something else. Something that looked like a deer, but wasn't, and we'd all eaten it. I called the number on the tag with shaking hands. An old man answered, crying immediately when I mentioned Bella. She's been missing for 3 months, he sobbed. The park ranger said she probably got taken by wolves, but I kept hoping she'd come home. What did she look like? I asked, even though I already knew. Golden retriever, about 60 pounds. She had this weird growth on her back legs that made her walk funny, but the vet said it was benign. I remembered the strange bone structure Zara had pointed out when she was cutting up the deer. What she thought were interesting antler formations were actually the remnants of a dog's skull. What she'd called unique meat marbling were the muscle fibers of a family pet that had been twisted into something unrecognizable. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that whatever had transformed Bella was now transforming us. Each day, my family and neighbors were becoming more animal-like, losing their human thoughts and behaviors. I found Zara in her room, but she wasn't standing. She was crouched in the corner, gnawing on a leather shoe. When she saw me, she smiled with teeth that looked too sharp. It's so much better this way, she said. Walking upright hurts, thinking hurts. This is how we're supposed to be. I ran outside and saw the truth spreading through our neighborhood. Families crawling on all fours, grazing in their yards, communicating through grunts and sniffs. The transformation was accelerating, and I could feel it starting in my own body. My fingers were getting longer, more claw-like. My spine was curving, making it painful to stand straight. And worst of all, the thought of dropping to all fours was becoming more appealing every hour. I'm writing this while I still can, while I still remember how to type, but I can smell something amazing coming from the garden, and my knees are aching to touch the ground. Whatever was in that meat is changing us into something that isn't human anymore. If you ever find a dead animal that looks wrong, that has wounds that don't make sense, don't touch it, don't eat it, and definitely don't feed it to your family, because the thing that killed it might still be inside, waiting to make you into something just like it.